She's dressed in an elegant black blazer that hugs her shoulders with impeccable tailoring, the white silk blouse underneath giving just a hint of contrast. It's the perfect balance of business and confidence, but it's the way she carries herself that truly sets her apart. She walks with a quiet grace, her heels clicking sharply against the floor with every purposeful step, a sound that rings clear and strong, commanding attention without demanding it. Her dark hair is styled neatly in a low bun, but a few wisps escape, framing her face in a soft, effortless way. She looks like someone who knows exactly who she is, someone who doesn't need to announce her presence, because her mere existence does it for her. But as she approaches the reception desk, the receptionist, engrossed in her phone, barely looks up. "Ms. Campbell will be with you shortly," she says without making eye contact, her tone flat, almost indifferent. "Please have a seat." The woman's gaze flickers to the receptionist's face, and for a split second, a flicker of something, perhaps irritation, perhaps amusement, passes through her eyes. She doesn't let it linger, though. Instead, she nods calmly, acknowledging the dismissal with a quiet grace that almost seems practiced. She walks to an empty chair in the corner, the click of her heels growing fainter as she moves further from the reception desk. Her posture is perfect, straight, confident, poised. Her eyes, though, scan the room. She observes the subtle dismissals around her. No one gives her a second glance. Everyone else seems too busy, too preoccupied, too caught up in their own world to take notice of the woman in the black blazer sitting quietly in the corner. But she's not just another woman in the lobby. She's not here to be overlooked, and she knows that. She waits, but it's not a passive act. She's watching, waiting for the right moment. Her calm exterior hides the quiet intensity beneath, the focused determination that no one in this room could possibly guess. She's not just waiting for Ms. Campbell. She's waiting for her moment to shift the balance in this room, to remind them all of one thing: she's the one in control. And so she waits. Her gaze moves to the clock on the wall, a slow, deliberate look, and then back to the glass doors leading to the boardroom. Minutes pass, and she doesn't move. Her presence, though, is undeniable. There's a subtle power in her stillness, a power that most of the people here will never understand until it's too late. The minutes seem to stretch as the woman sits, unmoving, in the corner of the lobby. The low hum of activity around her fades into a distant buzz as she focuses on the space before her. Her eyes dart briefly to the clock on the wall. It's ticking, steady and reassuring, almost like the heartbeat of the building itself. She's been here before, waiting, overlooked, dismissed, but not today. No, today, everything changes. The lobby is quiet, almost too quiet, save for the occasional shuffle of paper or the soft murmur of an executive exchanging a few quick words. Despite the professional atmosphere, there's an air of casual disregard for her presence, something she's long grown accustomed to. But today, it feels different. She watches as the receptionists, young and slightly disinterested, flick their gaze toward her, then away, as though their world has no room for someone like her. The woman in the black blazer is just another person to them, someone who's been scheduled into their busy day. But they don't know who she is. They don't know why she's here or what she's about to do. Time passes slowly. 5 minutes, 10 minutes. She doesn't fidget, doesn't check her phone or glance around. Her posture is immaculate, her demeanor unshaken. She's not just a visitor here. She's an observer, absorbing every detail, noting every slight, every dismissal, every moment that tells her exactly how small they think she is. Her gaze sweeps the lobby again. The building's sleek, modern architecture provides a stark contrast to the coldness that seems to be seeping into the air. It's almost as if she's been reduced to an object in the room, something to be ignored until she's no longer useful. But she isn't the type to be overlooked. Not for long. As she waits, her eyes fall on the elevator doors, and she watches as a group of executives emerges, stepping out of the lift as though they own the entire building. Tall, dressed in expensive suits, their laughter echoing off the walls, they walk past her without a glance. Each of them too wrapped up in their own conversation, too caught up in their own world to notice the woman sitting alone in the corner. She watches their every move, the way they carry themselves, the way they speak, the subtle arrogance in their steps, the way they move in and out of the boardrooms like they're entitled to everything around them. But none of them notice her. Not yet. The receptionist calls out in a cheery voice, oblivious to the growing tension in the room, "Ms. Campbell will be with you shortly. Please just wait a little longer." Her words are polite, professional, but there's an unmistakable undertone of dismissiveness. And the woman in the black blazer knows it. She feels it like a sharp edge against her skin. They still haven't realized who she is, but they will. They will, and it will be soon. Finally, after what seems like an eternity, the door to the executive boardroom opens. A few senior executives stroll in mid-conversation, all casual smiles, the kind of smiles that you only get when you know you're in control. The woman in the black blazer notices the way they move, the way they glide into the room with ease, as if their place at the head of the table is already assured. But there's one thing they all have in common: they all walk right past her, completely ignoring her presence, as though she's invisible. A wave of quiet frustration stirs within her, but it's quickly replaced by something far stronger: a calm resolve. She's been through this before. She's used to this. In fact, she expects it. She's been underestimated her entire life. But today, the rules are changing. Today, she'll show them that they've miscalculated. She stands up slowly, the soft rustle of her blazer the only sound as she straightens her posture. Her heels click on the polished floor with purpose as she walks toward the door to the boardroom. She's not in a rush. There's no need for haste. Everything she's done up until this moment has been calculated. Every step, every glance, every word spoken has been part of the plan. As she reaches the door, she stops and hesitates for just a moment, looking at the man standing at the threshold of the boardroom. His back is turned, but she knows he's the one who's supposed to be in charge, the one who's been calling the shots. He's the one who gave the order to have her wait. She's not supposed to be here. She's not supposed to be seen. But that's the problem. They've forgotten who she is. "Excuse me," her voice rings out across the room, calm and controlled, yet firm enough to stop everyone in their tracks. The sound of it echoes in the otherwise quiet lobby. Heads turn. Executives glance up from their conversations, their eyes briefly catching hers. But it's not the kind of look that acknowledges her power. It's the look of confusion, of surprise. They can't place her. They don't know who she is. The man by the door finally turns, clearly startled. He doesn't know her. He doesn't recognize the woman standing in front of him. "Can I help you?" His tone is polite, but there's a hint of impatience and underlying expectation that she's just another person to be pushed aside. But she doesn't flinch. She doesn't let his tone unsettle her. Instead, she stands tall, meeting his gaze unwaveringly. Actually, she begins, her words deliberate, each one carefully chosen. "I was hoping to meet with Ms. Campbell." The man's eyebrows furrow slightly, clearly caught off guard. He looks her over again, his gaze lingering on her face for a moment too long before he dismisses her with a barely perceptible nod. "I'm afraid she's busy right now," he says, a touch of condescension creeping into his voice. "If you could just wait outside for a few more minutes, we'll let you know when she's free." Her lips curl into a small, almost imperceptible smile. She doesn't move, doesn't even blink. "Outside," she repeats, her voice soft but with a hint of something sharper beneath it. The man's eyes flicker briefly, unsure of her reaction. He glances at the receptionist who, still engrossed in her phone, looks up and then quickly looks away as though she's trying to avoid any further interaction. "Yes, outside. Just for a moment. It won't take long." He says it with an air of finality, as though he's already written her off. The woman's gaze doesn't waver. She considers him for a brief moment, just long enough to let the tension in the room rise. There's a beat of silence. And then, in the calmest voice imaginable, she says, "I think you've misunderstood." She steps closer to the door, the air in the room shifting as her presence grows stronger. Her voice carries an authority that no one has heard from her yet. She takes another step forward, eyes locked with the man who still doesn't recognize her. And with one last look at the room, she says softly, but firmly, "I'm not waiting outside. This is your final warning." The words hang in the air, heavy, unspoken power radiating from her every movement. The man's face pales. His mouth opens to speak, but before he can, she turns on her heel, the soft click of her shoes echoing in the silence. "Excuse me," he starts, but there's a certain hesitance now, an unease in his tone that hadn't been there before. "You must have the wrong room. We're in the middle of a very important meeting. Perhaps you..." But she cuts him off, her voice sharp, direct. "No, I don't think you understand," she says, pausing to make sure every person in the room is focused on her. "I'm not here to wait. I'm not here to interrupt. I'm here because it's time for you to stop pretending that you run this company. I'm here because I'm taking over." Her words hang in the air like a heavy storm cloud, and the room goes dead silent. A tense, uncomfortable stillness fills the space. The executives exchange looks of disbelief, trying to process what she's just said. The man who had been the most dismissive of her, the one who had told her to wait, finally opens his mouth to protest, but his words falter. He can't quite find the right response. You're what? His voice cracks slightly as if he's trying to make sense of this moment. The woman in the black blazer steps closer, her heels clicking with each purposeful stride. She's close now, standing just a few feet away from the table where all the senior executives sit, their eyes wide in shock. You heard me, she says, her voice unwavering. You've underestimated me. All of you have. But it's time for you to face the truth. I am your new CEO, effective immediately. For a moment, the room is still. The air is thick with disbelief, and yet the woman standing before them is so composed, so certain in her words, that there's no mistaking the truth of what she's just claimed. The man who had dismissed her earlier opens his mouth again, but no sound comes out. His jaw clenches, but he can't bring himself to challenge her. The other executives are still processing, unsure of how to react. The woman in the black blazer smiles a smile that's not one of joy, but of power. She knows they're all scrambling to catch up to make sense of the situation. She's in control now, and they can feel it. But just as the tension reaches its peak and the weight of her declaration settles into the room, a phone rings loudly from the desk at the far side of the room. It's the sound of someone about to disrupt everything. The shrill ringing of the phone cuts through the tension in the room like a knife, snapping everyone back into reality. For a moment, no one moves. The woman in the black blazer stands perfectly still, her gaze unwavering as she locks eyes with the executives. The phone continues to ring, louder now, a constant reminder that something big is about to happen. One of the executives, a man who had been sitting at the head of the table, finally reaches for the receiver. His fingers tremble slightly, a visible sign of the uncertainty that's taking over him. Yes, he answers, his voice shaky, as though he expects the worst. The room falls into a hushed silence again. Every executive holds their breath, waiting to hear the news, whatever it may be. The woman remains standing, calm and poised, a stark contrast to the anxiety now circulating around the table. She can feel the power shift, can see the nervous glances being exchanged. They know they've been caught off guard, trapped in a situation they can't control. On the other end of the line, the voice crackles through the receiver. It's the board, the voice says firmly with an edge of authority that immediately grabs the attention of everyone in the room. There's a situation, and the company's survival depends on the decision you make right now. You need to listen. The man at the head of the table freezes, his hand still clutching the receiver. His expression changes in an instant, his earlier disbelief morphing into something darker, more wary. He nods, his eyes flickering toward the woman in the black blazer, his mouth tightening. I'm listening, he says, his voice quieter now, more cautious. The phone call continues for a moment, the conversation completely inaudible to everyone else in the room. But from the way the man's expression shifts, it's clear that something major is unfolding. The others at the table exchange quick glances, their discomfort growing with each passing second. When the call finally ends, the man slams the receiver down onto the desk with a loud bang, a noise that echoes through the room. Everyone, he begins, his voice now tinged with a sharp urgency. We've just received news from the board. It's about our future. The woman in the black blazer takes a step closer, her presence commanding as she surveys the room. The energy in the air has shifted entirely. Now the room is not just filled with disbelief, but with a palpable sense of fear. They're no longer sure what's going to happen, who will be in control. What did they say? She asks, her tone direct, calm, and far too confident for the atmosphere in the room. Her eyes lock onto his with a quiet intensity. What does the board want? The man opens his mouth to speak but hesitates, unsure of how to proceed. The power dynamics have shifted dramatically since she entered the room, and he knows that the situation is far more complicated now than it was just moments ago. The board wants changes, he mutters, his voice trembling. Immediate changes, but I haven't fully confirmed everything yet. They're asking for a full meeting within the hour, and they've made it clear that whoever they choose to lead, the decision will be final. A sharp silence falls over the room. The woman in the black blazer's expression doesn't change, but inside she feels the weight of this new information settle over her. The stakes have just been raised, It's not just about her now, it's about the future of the company. And what the board decides in the next few moments will seal her fate. She tilts her head slightly, considering the man's words. So, she says, her voice almost a whisper, it's a fight for control then. The executives exchange nervous glances. The man at the head of the table runs a hand through his hair, his jaw tightening. Yes, he says, his voice barely audible now. A fight we're not sure we'll win without the right person leading us. And you don't understand the gravity of what's coming. The decisions they make, no one will walk away the same. The woman's gaze never wavers. She's no longer just a participant in this game. She's the one pulling the strings now. But I do understand, she responds. I understand better than any of you could possibly imagine. The board doesn't want someone like you. They don't want the same old faces, the same old failures. They want someone who will fight, who will break the mold, and that's why they're going to choose me. Not you, not any of you. A low murmur ripples through the room. The air is thick with tension as the executives look from one another to the woman in black. They're watching the underdog now fully transformed into the predator take her place at the center of it all. Suddenly, the door opens, and a new figure steps into the room. It's a woman, an older, more established figure in the corporate world. She's dressed impeccably in a tailored navy blue suit, her expression neutral but calculating. She's someone the executives know well, a high-ranking board member, sent to ensure everything stays on track. She looks around the room, her gaze briefly flicking to the woman in the black blazer, before settling on the man at the head of the table. What's the situation? She asks crisply, her tone sharp, authoritative. The man at the head of the table stands quickly, his face flushed with anxiety. We have a serious situation on our hands, he admits. The woman you see here, he gestures toward the woman in the black blazer, has just announced that she's taking control of the company. She claims the board supports her. We're supposed to make a decision, but frankly, I don't know if we have a choice anymore. The woman in the navy blue suit surveys the room, her gaze lingering on the woman in the black blazer for a long moment. She says nothing, but the silence speaks volumes. Then, she turns back to the man at the head of the table. Have you spoken with the board yet? She asks, her voice colder now. He shakes his head. Not yet. The call just came in. We're waiting for confirmation. The older woman nods, her eyes narrowing. Then we need to move fast. This could go south very quickly. With one final look at the woman in the black blazer, she turns to leave, her steps decisive. And just like that, the woman in the black blazer is once again left in the room with the executives, only this time everything feels different. The stakes are higher, and the game has only just begun. The room has never felt quieter. The tension now hangs in the air like a heavy fog, settling over everyone present. The woman in the black blazer stands at the center of the room, her back straight, her posture radiating the kind of confidence that makes it impossible to ignore her. She watches as the door swings shut behind the woman in the navy blue suit, leaving her alone with the men at the table. The look on her face is calm, but her mind is racing, every thought calculated. Do you really think you've won? One of the executives finally speaks, breaking the silence. His voice is cold, filled with disbelief. She turns to him, her expression never faltering. I don't think, she replies slowly, her words deliberate, I know. The man looks at her with narrowed eyes, a sharp intake of breath marking his disbelief. He's about to say something, but before he can get another word out, the phone rings again. Everyone jumps, but no one reaches for it this time. The woman in the black blazer does, without a moment's hesitation. Her fingers hover over the receiver, but she doesn't pick it up immediately. The room falls deathly silent once again as everyone watches her, unsure of what's happening, unsure of who's on the other side of the line. With a calm breath, she picks it up. Hello, she says, her voice smooth, betraying no emotion. There's a slight pause on the other end of the line before a voice cold, detached responds. Is this the woman trying to take over? The voice asks, an almost mocking edge to the tone. The woman's lips curl into a smile. Yes, it is. And you must be the person who has questions. What's your name? The voice hesitates for a moment, perhaps startled by the woman's directness, but then it answers, unsteady but firm. I'm Charles Graves. I sit on the board. We're trying to figure out how this will work. You've made quite an impression, but we need to be sure you're the right fit. She listens closely, her fingers tapping lightly on the desk, her gaze flickering toward the men seated around her. They are still watching, still waiting for her next move. "Charles," she says, her voice cool, "I don't need your approval. You don't need to decide whether or not I'm a fit. What I'm offering is an opportunity to make history. What I'm offering is what you've all been too scared to do. You want to play it safe, but I'm done with safe." There's a pause on the other end of the line, a hesitation that lasts just a beat too long. But it's enough for the woman in the black blazer to know she has them right where she wants them. "I'll be at the meeting," Charles says finally, his voice a little firmer now. "We'll discuss this then." "No, you won't," she responds sharply, her words punctuating the silence. "You'll already have your decision. I'll make sure of that." The line goes quiet and she hangs up. There's no dramatic click, no finality to the sound. Just the soft hum of the receiver resting in the cradle. But her silence speaks louder than anything she could say aloud. The room seems to hold its breath as the executives stare at her, eyes wide. The power dynamic has shifted entirely. They had thought they controlled the company, they had assumed they were in charge of the decisions. But now they're not so sure anymore. One of the men who had been silent up until now stands up abruptly. He's visibly sweating, the weight of everything crashing down on him. "Do you honestly think you can pull this off?" he demands. "You're a woman, no offense. But how do you expect to run this company when you've only been here for a few months?" The woman in the black blazer doesn't flinch. She doesn't even blink. Her voice is sharp, cutting through the air like a blade. "I don't need to be here for years to know how to lead. I know what's broken, and I know how to fix it. I don't need permission from anyone, especially not from someone who's been complicit in the company's stagnation for decades." The room is dead silent. Her words hit harder than any slap could. One of the other executives, who has been nervously shifting in his seat, finally speaks up. "What do you want from us? How can we make this work?" His voice shakes with uncertainty, the cracks in his confidence showing more with every word. She pauses for a moment, considering her response carefully. "You'll do exactly what I tell you to do. If you don't like it, then you'll leave. But don't worry, I'm sure you'll all find new jobs. Your credentials will get you far." The stakes are rising by the second. This isn't just about a power struggle anymore, it's a game of survival. If the executives aren't careful, they'll find themselves irrelevant, out of the picture entirely. And then, as if on cue, the door opens once more. The woman in the black blazer turns sharply, her attention shifting toward the new arrival, a man she recognizes instantly. It's the CEO of another company, a major rival who had once tried to take control of her company years ago. His entrance is enough to stop everyone in their tracks. He walks in with a confidence only someone in his position can carry. But even he can't mask the tension in the room. "Is this a bad time?" he asks, his voice smooth but tinged with the unmistakable edge of someone used to getting what they want. The woman in the black blazer smiles coldly, her eyes narrowing ever so slightly. "It's never a bad time for you to lose," she says, her voice dripping with purpose. The rival CEO doesn't seem surprised. He's been in the game long enough to understand the stakes. "I'm just here to make sure things don't get out of hand," he responds, his eyes meeting hers, in a challenge that's impossible to ignore. But what he doesn't know is that he's walked right into the middle of the most dangerous game of all. The woman in the black blazer is no longer just fighting for control of the company, she's fighting for the future. And she's not about to lose. The room is tense, the air thick with the weight of what's to come. Will this newcomer throw the woman off her game? Will he help or hinder her fight for the top? Or is he just another obstacle that will fall in her path? The woman in the black blazer stands unflinching, her gaze fixed on the rival CEO who just stepped into the room. Every inch of her body radiates power, determination, and control. The other executives watch in stunned silence, unsure of what to make of the sudden twist. This wasn't just about the company anymore. It had evolved into something far more personal. The rival CEO, a seasoned veteran of the corporate world, steps forward. His eyes scan the room, a sharp, calculating glint in them. He knows the stakes. He knows she's dangerous. But he's confident, too confident, that this will go in his favor. "Let's cut the games, shall we?" he says, his voice dripping with arrogance. "I didn't come here to play the role of the bad guy. I'm here to make sure the right decisions are made, decisions that'll secure the future of this company. She doesn't flinch. Her eyes never leave him, her stance never wavering. There's a moment of silence, the room holding its breath. Then, with a cool, almost casual smile, she speaks. "You don't get it, do you?" Her voice is low but filled with the kind of venom that makes everyone in the room pause. "You're not here to make decisions anymore. You never were. You're here to be part of the old guard, the part that's holding everything back, the part that's afraid of change. You're not in control anymore." The rival CEO's jaw tightens, but he keeps his composure. He knows he can't show weakness. "I think you're overestimating your position, don't you? You're not in charge yet. You have no power here." Her smile widens, but it's not a friendly one. "Not yet," she agrees, her voice dripping with sweet finality. "But in 5 minutes you won't have any power at all. Not here. Not here. Not anywhere." The executives look from her to the rival CEO, then back at her. What was she talking about? The stakes were high, but had she really thought she could take him down that quickly? She steps away from the desk, moving towards the door where her assistant stands, waiting, eyes glued to her every movement. The woman in the black blazer gives a slight nod. The assistant knows what to do. In a flash, the assistant pulls a large, sleek folder from under their arm and places it on the table in front of the rival CEO. He glances down, his eyes narrowing when he sees the title, Termination Documents. "What's this?" he growls, his irritation rising. "You think you can just hand me my walking papers?" The woman doesn't answer immediately. She watches him, feeling the calm before the storm, knowing that this is the moment of truth. The rival CEO has no idea that she's been gathering evidence for weeks, finding the cracks in his operations, the shady deals, and the corporate sabotage he'd been orchestrating. But just before he can raise his voice again, her assistant speaks. "We have all the proof we need, Mr. Graves," they say, the words cold and final. "Your company has been involved in several unethical practices. Your actions have been under investigation, and it's all going public today." A long, drawn-out silence hangs in the air. The rival CEO's face turns white, his confidence crumbling faster than a stack of cards in a windstorm. He's backed into a corner, and for the first time he doesn't have an escape route. The woman in the black blazer steps forward, placing her hand on the folder with the evidence. She slowly slides it across the table toward him, her fingers tapping lightly against the folder. "You're finished," she says, her voice chillingly calm, as though she's simply stating a fact. "I'll give you 2 choices. You can leave this room, sign those documents, and walk away with what little dignity you have left. Or I'll make sure every media outlet knows your name, and not in the way you want." His breathing comes in shallow bursts. He glances at the executives, who are all watching, waiting, but offering no help. He looks back at her, his eyes filled with rage, but there's a glimmer of fear in them now too. "You think you've won?" he spits out, his voice hoarse. "You're nothing but a—" "I'm not your enemy," she interrupts, her voice still calm, but the words cutting through the air with surgical precision. "Your enemy is your own arrogance, your inability to change. And that's exactly why I'm going to bring everything down. If you fight it, you'll lose. If you walk away, you might have a chance to rebuild." He slams his hand on the table, but it's a futile gesture. The damage is already done. His empire is crumbling piece by piece. The woman in the black blazer stands tall, unyielding. "Your choice," she says, her eyes locking with his, daring him to make a move. "But I know what you'll choose." The rival CEO stands there for a long moment, his face twisted with indecision. The clock is ticking. Everyone in the room waits for him to make his next move. Finally, he takes a step back. The weight of the situation finally hits him. His shoulders slump, and he looks at the folder once more, his hand shaking as he reaches for the pen. A deep breath escapes him, and in that moment, the woman in the black blazer knows she's won. The rival CEO slumps into the chair, defeated, as he scribbles his signature at the bottom of the document. The room remains silent, save for the faint sound of the pen scratching the paper. "Congratulations," she says softly, "now we rebuild." Her eyes sweep over the room. Every single person there knows that this is only the beginning. The woman who had been dismissed, told to wait, underestimated she's the one in control now. The company is hers, and nothing is going to stop her. What would you do if you were in her shoes? Could you turn everything around like she did? Let us know in the comments, And don't forget to hit that subscribe button for more incredible stories of power, strategy, and redemption.